All right, so now that we've got our score going with our player, we need to add the game. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use player to create a class for game, and we're just going to change the score to players and make that an array of type player to the class we made before. Then we need to change the init to hold the empty array of a player. And an array and equals an empty array. And then make the self player equal players. Right. We can change our database file too. So let's just change that to v2 so it doesn't override the current database that we did have. So changing the data structure, and let's add to our model container game.self. Just comma that in front of the player.self because they're the two classes that we're trying to save. And we're going to use content view to create a new view called game view. So create a new game view. Bring that up. And inside content view, let's copy everything under the struct view for content view and put that in the game view. We make some changes here. So we still need to keep the context or model context, but we don't need to query it anymore because we're getting the information from our previous screen, but we're going to make that bindable. So go into this view with game already made. Right, so this game view here is just lists the players. We're going to keep the name, bindable game, and instead of players, change we need to is for each game.players. It's not just the players, but it's coming from within game. And down here, we need to not just insert the player, but that needs to be the player within the game. So we need to see game.players and append that with the player. Everything else stays the same. Game view, we need to pass for our preview screen just what the game value is. So we've got variables up there, it just needs to know what it is. So we need a game for it. And so we're just going to pick a game. Let's just call that volleyball. Right, so now in our game view, well, let's get it so that, or in our content view, should I say, let's get it so that now it doesn't add a player because we've got that now in game view. Let's get it so it adds a game. So we now need to query the game, right? And that's an array of type games. We can change our, we can keep this as name, but we're going to change that to game name just so that things don't change. We know what it is. Add a name for game and change our text to game name. Let's add this to add game because we're adding a game in this content view now, and we're going to loop through games. Think of it as game every time it loops through. We're going to move to game view, which means we need to pass it the game value. And the text is not of a player, but it's of the game. Can't find add game because we've changed our add player to add game. So let's change that. Let's let the game. Really only putting in the name, right? But it's game name in this case. And our model context is we're inserting a game, and we're going to reset that game name up the top to nothing after it's done that. All right, let's have a look at what that looks like. So rerun that. What we'll see here now is it's blank. It's also opening a new database. We've got a tennis. Let's add a couple, tennis and volleyball. So tennis, let's add Troy. And so let's give him some points. And volleyball, let's add a couple players here, Tom and Lisa. And give them some scores as well. And you can see that holds the games and the scores.